how's it going, kids? This is Dr. Callahan with week 12 Thursday. How are you guys doing? Go ahead and answer the following 3 questions. All right, let's go ahead and get started, you guys. So take a look at your guided notes for week 12 Thursday. It is going to start off on this guided notes right here in front of you. That's page 1, and on the bottom it says week 12 Thursday, followed by this page right here, which is page 2, page 3, page 4, and 4 pages is what you should have. So let's go ahead and get started with the first page, and your notes actually starts right over here. So looking at this part right here, we're going to go ahead and graph parabolas. So we did graph absolute values, and remember your absolute value has a V shape, and absolute value is absolute value of x. Well, parabolas have an x squared, and so the shape is kind of like a smiley face. So looking at this part right here, if x is equal to -3, you have f of -3, which is a -3 squared, and that's a -3 times a -3, which is a +9. So then at 3, -3, 1, 2, 3, you go up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's your first point. Similarly, if x is -2, you have -2 squared, which is a -2 times a -2, and that gives me a +4. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. When x is equal to -1, you have -1 squared, which is a -1 times a -1, and that's a +1. So at -1, +1. Next, when x is 0, 0 times 0 is a 0, so it's going to be right here at the origin. And then when x is equal to 1, 1 times 1 is 1, so 1, 1. And then when x is 2, +2 squared is a 2 times 2, which is a 4. And then I think you can kind of guess that when you have a 3, it's going to be a 9. So then go ahead and connect the dots here. And your graph should look something like this. And that is a parabola. And another thing that you should notate is that the vertex, which is the pointy part right here, is at 0, 0. Your vertex is always represented by the letter H, comma, K. All right, so next, what do you predict will happen when we graph g of x, which is x squared minus 3? Now think about when you have the absolute value. When you have a negative k, does your graph go up or does it go down or does it go right or left? If you're not sure, let's go ahead and use a chart. So here I have g of -3, which is a -3 squared minus 3. -3 times -3 is a 9. 9 minus 3 is going to give me a 6. So my first point is at 1, 2, 3 for x. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's my first point. When x is -2, you have a -2 squared minus 3. So -2 times -2 is a +4. Minus 3 gives me a 1. So -2, +1. Next, when x is a -1, -1 squared minus 3, 1 times 1 is a 1, 1 minus 3 is a -2, so -1, -2, right there. And then when x is 0, 0 squared minus 3 is just 0 minus 3, which is a -3. After that, x equals 1, so 1 squared minus 3 is going to give me a -2. And then I think you could kind of guess when it's 2, it's going to be a 1. When it's a 3, it's going to give me a 6. And then, of course, you can go ahead and connect the dots. And you should see that there is a parabola for you. And also notate that your vertex is going to be H, comma, K, which is at 0, -3. All right, so then let's take a look over here at these three equations. So looking at these three equations, I want you guys to notice that instead of having the absolute value of y plus or minus a, whoops, absolute value x minus h plus k, we have now replaced it with a y equals plus or minus a, x minus h squared plus k. And then go ahead and see which one is your a value, your h value, and then also your k value. And I want you to identify them. So let's take a look at number 1. For number 1, your a is a positive 2. Your h, which is inside the parenthesis, is going to be a positive 1. And I know you're like, well, really, it's a positive 1 because it looks like it's going to be a negative 1 to me. But if you look at this here, you have to kind of match it. Here you have a negative h, negative 1. So negative h equals negative 1. So positive h equals positive 1. So the relationship is you have to have the opposite. Your k is just going to be 4. So if I were to go ahead and describe this, I would say that I would go up 4, 1 to the left, and then it is going to be a smiley face parabola, but it's going to be a skinnier or compressed, so it's a little bit skinnier like that. Now that I did number 1, I want you guys to go ahead and do number 2 and number 3 on your own. Okay, now take a look at the answers that I have. All right, let's go ahead and go on to the next part here. So it says, what do you predict will happen when we graph this equation here? I think you kind of understand that at this point, if I were to go ahead and graph this, you will start at 0. Then the 2 here is going to be 2 to the left. And if you don't believe me, we can go ahead and plug these equations in. If it is a negative 5, h of negative 5 is a negative 5 plus 2 squared. Negative 5 plus 2 is a negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. When x is negative 4 plus 2 squared is negative 2 squared, which is a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, what we have is going to be a negative 3. So negative 3 plus 2 squared is a negative 1 squared, which is a 1. So 1, 2, 3, 1. And then next you have a negative 2. So negative 2 plus 2 squared is a 0. So negative 2 and 0. And at this point, you should probably be able to guess when it's negative 1, it is going to give you a 1. When it's 0, it's going to give you a 4. And when it's 1, it's going to give you a 9. So negative 1, 1, 0, 4, 1, 9. So then when you go ahead and connect the dots, you should have this shape. And notate that your vertex is going to be at negative 2, 0. And remember your vertex is h, k. All right, you guys, so the next what I want you to do is explain in your own words. How does h and k shift the graph of the quadratic function? So what is the purpose of having the h and the k? This is my answer. So take a look at the ones in the bubble. All right, and then for now, instead of using that chart that we plugged all those points in, I just want you guys to go ahead and graph this. So I'm going to go ahead and let me pick number 3. So for number 3, I can see that it's going to be 1 to the right, 1 to the right here, and this is my graph. V is for vertex. My vertex is right here, and that's at +1, 0. Domain, which means x value, like left to right, that's going to be from a -infinity to +infinity. Domain means up and down. So you're going to start at 0, and then the graph keeps going up, so to +infinity. Or I should write it the other way. 0 to +infinity. All right, so now that I did number 3, I want you guys to do 1, 2, and 4. All right, you guys, and now I'm going to have you shift over to this page right here. We're going to go over 12 different questions. So for number 10, just split it into 11 and 12. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to show you guys 12 different posters, and you're going to write down the answers. Here's question number 1. On this graph, sketch A, B, and C. So pause the video and do that, please. Poster number 2, sketch these 3 graphs on number 2, please. Number 3, pause the video, sketch number 3. Number 4, sketch the graph of each parabola, label 3 points on the parabola, and describe the transformation from the parent function, which is x squared. So if I'm starting off at y equals x squared, how does y equals 4x squared? How is this graph going to be different than the parent function, is what the question is asking. Question number 5, number 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and 13. All right, you guys, you have kind of finished at this point. So now I want you guys to turn over to this page, go ahead and answer the reflection exit ticket. And that's basically it. Congratulations, you guys. As always, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.